International choreographer Helen Pickett created PETAL, which opens OBT's program Celebrate at the Newmark Theatre April 17th through 26th. Helen, you include improvisation for 8 dancers in the 18-minute PETAL. Why that style of choreography?
Actually, the improvisation is only a small part of the piece. It's almost a fully choreographed piece, but I've included improvisation because it doesn't usually show up in classical choreography. Now, this is called contemporary ballet choreography. So I'm a choreographer who works on point. I have a strong improvisational background, and I like the possibility of, I like the spontaneity of improvisation, and I find it actually lends itself to finding the person more. I think we see the person more through improv because it is something that must happen in the moment. There is preparation, as the dancers might tell you, I have prepared them. It's not a free improv, it's based on the choreography, so it's a deconstructed idea of the choreography. It has a lot to do with phrasing the music, so I want them to hear the music a different way when they improv, and to pick up nuances, and I want them to play and dance around the note in the improvic sections, not always on the specific timing of what the choreography might be.
You said that improvising in ballet is like hang gliding off a cliff.
I did?
There are rules and procedures, but once you step off that cliff, you're on your own. So my question is, what rules and procedures?
There's technique.
Is it like the theatre, which I know you have experience with too, where you know where you're all going to begin, and you've been told where you should end up, but the middle is up to you. Now, given that this is in part improvised, but not extensively, but within those limitations of improv for your 8 dancers, do they get freedom as to what they do as long as they reach the end at the same point?
There are many different kinds of improvisation. The kind of improvisation that I've practiced since I was 19 is based in technique. So it lends itself, I believe, more to musical improvisation. You use the detail and the nuance of a technique that you know so well, ballet. You riff off the choreography. So you riff off the ballet that you know. So there is a ground, there's a foundation in which they are choreographing, there's a foundation in which they are improving off of. So it's not a free choreographic thing. It is very much based on a technique. They have tasks, so deconstruction, level change, spatial reorientation, pauses, repetition, and then again playing in and out of the music. Yes, there's a starting point. Candace, for example, her solo is entirely improv, and it's rather long. And she has many levels in these improvs because the music changes. So she gets to tell a story in a different way. So I believe improvisation is a different kind of storytelling.
Let's talk about that music, because you just mentioned that it's closer to music improvisation. Mm-hmm. You're working with a compilation of music from Philip Glass mm-hmm. and the film composer Thomas Newman. What made you go with these very disparate composers?
They're not different in this particular piece.
I meant actually in the case of perhaps the style that we are familiar with Philip Glass's style of somewhat repetition, and Tommy Newman's style, which is much more of a visual style with a rich orchestral flavor.
That's a good question, because I see music visually. So even though Thomas Newman is of the movie tradition in that composing style, it is to help the vision come forward, but so is the music for the ballet. So I see music as I see it. I see music. I don't know how else to say it. So it appears as movement to me. So For example, Thomas Newman's piece, End Title, has nothing to do with the movie for me. For me, it's just, I've heard this, I hear the story in the music, but it's not anything to do with the film. I've made up my own story for this music, and it was a juxtaposition that went very well with the glass, because it is precisely the difference in their styles that, when I listened to it, made it merry. So it's like any good relationship, you know, there has to be yin and yang. If it's too much of the same thing, it never lasts a long time. So I do these collages quite often. This kind of collage for me, I put Ligeti and Rachmaninoff together in one piece, and I put Goreski and Tom Waits together in a piece. And I love doing these collages. I'm using Corigliano, but I'm using it from 3 different movies that he's done. Vastly different styles, but it's still the same composer. So I love doing these collages of different composers and then of the same composer, but from vastly different parts of their career. For me, if they can come in at the same key at some point, it fits.
So then, Helen, I have to ask, because you've just thrown that in my court, does the music you hear inspire you to create choreography, or is it, as we might otherwise think, the other way around?
No, it's music first.
It's music first. So where...
Unless I have a play. For example, I'm working off of 3 plays in the next year and a half. So then I've read the play, and then I have to get the music. But that's very different for me.
So when you hear the music, and you're seeing the dance when you hear the music, you're not hearing where the music comes from necessarily as much as where you see it going with your dancers on stage. Is it writing itself in your mind?
You mean the steps?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to listen to music a really long time. Once I've chosen it, and before I've chosen it, I bank music, so I've had music that I've listened to for years and I've wanted to use. I have a piece of music I'm finally using that I had for 10 years now.
So you have a cutting file, essentially.
Yeah, yeah. And I finally found the place I'm going to use this music. Now, I've been listening to it for so long that I've been seeing things for a really long time. I sound nuts. I've been seeing things with this piece of music for so long, but where it's actually fit in, I've now begun to, I've seen a whole new side of this music. I've seen steps form in a much different way.
Which makes me ask the question, do you second guess yourself on stage? Do you say, well, this...
Oh, a piece is never done.
This is, well, I'm thinking more that this is really how I envisaged it, but hang on, I don't think it quite works that way. Maybe we can go in a different direction.
Oh, yeah. It's not second guessing, that's a good artist. So I guess a good artist is always second guessing, because a piece is never done. I want to change something as soon as I've seen it. And that's not saying, oh, I did a horrible job. It's that I can see where it could grow.
Well, let's see it from the other point of view. Let's see it from the point of view of the dancers. Because you must inspire motivation, and the work must require inspiration from internally, from the internal structure of the dancers who put their feet on the floor, or in other people's arms, or wherever they're being lifted. So when you're aiming for motivation and inspiration, is this a given that a professional dance troupe as good as Oregon Ballet Theatre will already arrive with that in large amounts, or do you have to somehow motivate them to be inspired, motivate the dancers to be inspired?
I think dancers in a professional company are there because they have learned to inspire themselves on a daily basis. Caveat. every choreographer is going to have a different wish from their dancers. So I always do an audition, and it's more for me than them, because I have to get to know these dancers. I've never seen, for example, I've never seen this group of dancers before. It would be highly, in my mind, highly irresponsible for me to cast just from watching class. I cannot find a personality by just a professional dancer taking a ballet class, because everybody takes a ballet class for different reasons. To get warm, to get over whatever they need to get over. It is their bread. It's like some of them need it so much, but when you do an audition, and what I mean is what happened here is that I asked Jeff Stanton, my ballet master, to teach the dancers 3 different things before I came, so they could work on a bit. I came in Saturday, and then I saw small groups audition in these 3, a female solo, a male solo, and a duet. And then I auditioned again on Monday, and I didn't do casting for about 5 days, right, Candace? Yeah. And it's so I can learn them, so I can see how I have to motivate them, so I can learn who they are, so I can find their strengths where I want them to grow. So, you know, there's a whole palette of what I do. I love to coach. And my whole theory is we connect to them when they connect. So if they are not connected deeply to their understanding of this particular piece and to themselves as a human being, we're not going to connect in the audience.
So when they're on stage, in the moment, and from a theatrical perspective, I think this is important for viewers to know, can they turn on the character and then turn off the character when they walk off stage?
I always did. I mean, I think that's a part of theater. I mean, I really believe in the theatrical aspect of choreography too, and that's also my background, but you have to create a story no matter how abstract the ballet. That's what I believe. So I'm always telling them to create a story for themselves, and that it's a different story every day. Because if we get mired down in trying to recreate the story that we've created, well, it's not in the moment anymore. So it might be the same base story, but it's the different nuance of what comes in every day. Like we wake up every morning, it's a new story. It's a new start to a story. So that's how I want them to approach, you know, their rehearsals. So, and that's how I want them to approach every performance. I hope every performance is different. I hope they can build and fold in deeper to who they are in these particular shows.
Is that an element of improvisation? Because they're able to reach.
That's life.
Okay, so life is improvisation.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Let's go into how you work on stage with the dancers. You have a history of being a dancer, and you have therefore become a choreographer to pull from that history and to impart that knowledge to other people to make them better dancers. But you've had your own history of pleasant and less pleasant experiences as a choreographer, as a dancer, and now you're a choreographer. So,
and as a choreographer.
And I'm going to get there in the end. So when you're on stage, are you aware of don't do this, because when they did this to me 20 years ago, it was horrible?
Oh, I've done that, but I've said that in the room, but I've also said, I've joked with them, if they're busting up or something, I'll say, okay, because I think humor is a really important part. There's a lot of laughter in the studio, and I come in the first day and I say, hi, I'm Helen Pickett, and I like to have a good time in the studio. As long as we all keep up our end of the deal, that can continue. Because communication is huge. If you lay it out there of how this could go, most people are going to say, okay, and usually step up to the plate and hold up their end of the deal. Then we can continue having a good time. I mean, that's when people learn the best, is when they're feeling good and they can take it in. Sometimes it's hard things to take in. It's a very personal situation. I mean, Candace can tell you too. You should interview her when I'm gone. But it's a very personal space in there for me. I try to get at every person. And I forgot the chat.
Well, I'm
The
gonna,
point of the question, what
I'm-
was it again?
I want to scratch that surface a little bit because I think it's relevant, and that is whether you want to admit it or not, Helen. You have done interviews where basically you push very hard to get what you want, and you will make.
I beg your pardon.
I can show you the interviews. But I do want to.
I push hard.
I do want to know when you're saying to somebody, "Oh, I think you can get a little bit more aggressive here."
Oh, I don't say that.
Or closer, or be the person doing the chasing here. You know, make this emotion come out in not just in what the audience is seeing, but what your mind is thinking. Yes.
Yes.
Is that a style that you normally would use as a choreographer, or is it just for this particular work that you're doing that?
That's my style as a choreographer.
And
I always do that.
Is that based upon your own background, or just based upon the
Well,
way
I
that
mean,
you...
we all are based on our own background. I mean, I can't base it on your background.
No, but I'm thinking you have a certain set of templates that you can work with.
Yeah.
And you have to adapt those templates to the given situation that you're in at that moment.
Absolutely. And each piece is different, but I work the same way. When I'm choreographing, so I'm setting, or I'm not setting this, my ballet master is really setting this. I'm setting it too. Yeah, scratch that. Just cut that part.
So
When I choreograph, that is a much different space, and I'm in the room and I'm moving around, and I have everybody learn this choreography, and then I start making solos out of the choreography. So I do long phrases of choreography as well, but then I'll make solos. I'll do some text. I have a very good idea of the music, so I cut the music in pieces and choreograph. You know, I see duets happening here, and if it's a play, I just go through. I don't usually start at the top when I choreograph. I usually start right in the middle or at the end. But if it's a play I'm following, I usually start at the top. But going back to, you know, I can only take from my own experience, and the choreographer I am today, and it's changed far more. I'm coming up in 10 years next year as a choreographer. Is far different than when I started. I seem to be getting tougher, but I'm not mean in the studio. I'm direct, and I communicate, and I know what I can get out of people if they're willing to come along in the journey. And some aren't, but some are ready, and it's all about who's ready. You know what I mean? It's if you're ready to jump into the deep end or not. And it's neither good nor bad if someone's not ready to jump in the deep end. And I'm cool with that too, mostly. But I usually only choose the dancers that are ready to jump in the deep end. So there's something I can see in these auditions about people that are on the edge of wanting to jump in, or people that are ready for the ride. Go ahead.
So will you then approach PETAL as a preformed notion, and then when you get in there and work with these amazing dancers, say, no, I think I can take this further?
Oh yeah. I mean,
or conversely say, I think I need to pull back a little bit and just let them find that path.
Oh, no, they're not allowed to pull back. No, PETAL, when it's a set ballet, you know, that's the starting point. And I will only, we will only go further in the journey. We won't backpedal. We won't backpedal.
So I guess to wrap it up then, we'd like viewers to attend this and enjoy this wonderful ballet. What do you want audience members to come away thinking when they've seen this?
Joy. It's a pretty joyful piece. I want them to feel like they've made a connection in some intimate way. I want them to think that the dancers were just extraordinary, which I saw the first run through of the first cast today, and I thought that, and want them to think that. So it's out of my hands, really. My work is now, and I really enjoy it. And of course, I'm nervous when I sit in the audience on opening night, but I'm nervous for them. I'm not nervous about me anymore. It's not mine anymore once it's on that stage. And I don't want them to think that. I want them to know it's theirs. And that's what all this intense work is about. That's what the digging in and the folding in again. No, it was good. Okay, we've reached this. Okay, now we have to bump it up. So I work in layers. I get to a certain point and I say, okay, we're ready to add this in now. So let's do that. And this is individual. This isn't for the whole group. I do this for individuals at different times. So I want the audience to have, I want it to be like a celebration. I feel like PETAL's a celebration of the prowess of the human being. And that it's not just physical prowess, but the emotional and the connected and the intimate prowess of a human being.
Thanks
It's a celebration of
Thank you
humanity.
for bringing in the word celebrate. That was rather
Oh,
clever.
God, I didn't even know that. So I guess I did. I'm great.
Well, we are very glad that you came to Oregon and
you.
looking forward to this production a lot. Thank you, Helen Pickett.
so much. It was a pleasure. Thank you.